the bridge of the nose. We've got the nasal bones here, right on the ridge of the bridge of the nose. And then we've got the frontal process of the maxilla, and then posterior and a little bit lateral, we have the lacrimal bones. And lacrimal has the same root as lagrima in Spanish, which means tears. Lacrimal bones, they have a nasolacrimal groove in it, and there's a little duct that goes from your eye to your nose that the tears go through as they normally like travel across your eye. Then they go down into your nose and can then be swallowed down your esophagus or run out your nose if you have seasonal allergies. Anyway, that's why your nose runs when you cry, because there are more tears. They go down into your nose and then they come out the front of your nose. That's gross. Okay. Does that all make sense?
Yes.
I have a helpful mnemonic. I hope it's helpful for remembering this. And that is, if you go from the lateral to the medial here on the bridge of the nose, you have lacrimal, maxilla, and nasal. Okay, L-M-N. They're in alphabetical order. See that? Isn't that cool? I didn't figure that out. I figured that out. Okay, so that's those bones. All right, now let's talk mandible. So now the mandible, remember, fits into this mandibular fossa. Do I have a skull without a mandible attached? I don't. Can you come unattached? Ooh, you can. Okay. Hang on just a sec. I'm going to loosen this. Okay. So there's this mandibular fossa right here. It's just medial to the posterior end of the zygomatic arch, which we already met. So that's the fossa right there. So this bit of the mandible that fits into there so nicely, that is called the condylar process. And what does condyle mean? Okay, you're right. It means a knuckle-shaped bone-to-bone attachment site. Thank you. Okay. So the condylar process is that part right there. Then we have the mandibular notch. Everybody say mandibular notch.
Mandibular notch.
Mandibular notch.
Mandibular notch.
And then we have the coronoid process. Everybody say coronoid process.
Coronoid process.
Coronoid process.
Okay, and coronoid, you remember, means kind of like a crown. Okay, so again, we have this little pointy thing that sort of looks like the front of a tiara. Okay. This part of the mandible is called the body of the mandible. And then again, we have an alveolar process. So both the mandible and the maxillae have alveolar processes. We also have the, let's go over here first, the angle, okay? Whenever we have a corner of a bone, we call it an angle. And the angle of the mandible is this little corner right here, okay? And if you, when you open your mouth, you can feel that little corner move. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Oh, we have a mental foramen. And why is it called the mental foramen? Because the thinker, I don't know if that's why it's called that, but that's, it's obviously not why it's called that, but that is how you're going to remember it. The little lump of your chin here, okay, is called the mental protuberance. And that foramen on either side is called the mental foramen. So this is Rodin's the thinker. See, he's thinking, mental, get it?
Right.
It's not my best joke. All right, now on the medial side of the mandible, we have this groove right here, okay, called the mandibular foramen. That's the little hole right there. I think it should be called a canal because it goes into the bone and it goes kind of, it's a groove that goes kind of down into the bone right there. But anyway, it's called a foramen. That's the mandibular foramen. Right? So we got condylar process, coronoid process, mandibular notch in between them, alveolar process, mental foramen, mental protuberance, angle, and then this part is called the ramus. Everybody say ramus.
Ramus.
Ramus means ram's horn, okay? And so somebody thought this looked like a ram's horn. And so anyway, that's why this is called the ramus of the mandible. All right, any questions about anything so far? Bueller? Tell me you
No,
got
I
that.
just wish I had a skull at home to hold.
Right? I know. You can get a cheap skull for not that expensive on Amazon, but the holes in the bottom aren't necessarily great. A lot of them won't be holes. They'll be indentations. So you have to pay a lot to get a good skull. Also, Amazon in the UK has suspended deliveries of everything that's not vital. So I don't know if this counts as vital. That's UK. They haven't done that in the United States yet. But I don't know if that's, I think they suspended in the US, they suspended deliveries to their warehouses of non-vital things. I think I heard that yesterday. I don't think these count as vital, so if they don't have it in stock, like you can't, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I really wish you guys had skulls because it's much easier to learn on a real skull, even a plastic one. And campus is closed. You guys are not allowed to be here, so you cannot come to the STEM Center and use the models. I am now realizing the weird expressions I use. And I see, the thing is, I don't have to look at myself when I am lecturing to you. And now I find this very upsetting. I don't like looking at myself. I think I'm going to have to get used to it. Thank you for laughing. I appreciate it. Okay, so that's the mandible. Okay, does anybody have any questions before we go on? Okay. Where's my mouse? There we go. Okay. All right, so, one other thing of the mandible, this little lingula, okay? That's gonna be for muscles from the tongue. Lingua, tongue, yeah, lingua tacos. The taco truck comes around, you can totally do that. Like, takeout is fine. Support your local restaurants. And then this groove here, this is not on your study guide. This is the Mylohyoid Groove. And we're gonna have a muscle, the mylohyoid muscle that attaches there, okay? So that's gonna make more sense later when we get to other things. All right, and then down here, we have the, there we go, mental spines, okay? We're gonna have muscles that attach there as well. And on some of our mandibles, these are really clear. Look, can you see them? See those little bumps there? Okay, those are the mental spines, all right? I am going to today take videos of all of these bones, and I will post those on my YouTube channels. They will have sound this time, because that's a thing. And I will post them as quickly as possible, but it does take some time to post them. They will have bad closed caption to start, but then I will get around to fixing the closed captioning as we go on. So I have a ton of work to do. But basically my plan today is to just stay in the classroom and take videos of everything, videos and pictures, and so that I have that to post as we go along. So fingers crossed that this all works.
I have.
Okay, moving on. All right, the hyoid bone. Everybody say hyoid bone.
Hyoid bone.
Okay, the hyoid bone is the only bone that does not articulate with any other bone in the human body. It sits here in this section we call the larynx. Everybody say larynx.
Larynx.
Okay, and it's suspended by muscles and cartilage and ligaments, okay? But it doesn't actually directly articulate with another bone. It's just hanging here in your neck, right? If you get hanged by the neck, it usually breaks. So you've actually heard of the hyoid bone if you ever watch like crime shows. They always talk about like, oh, well, the hyoid bone was broken, so this person was actually hanged and then strangled to make it look like they were strangled or something like that. So watch out for that, right? Now, this is going to be a question on the test. So everybody repeat after me. Hyoid bone is the only bone to articulate with another bone.
The hyoid bone is the only bone that does not articulate with any other
Articulate with any other bone in the body.
Thank you. Okay. Hang on just a second. Let me go get the Larynx model so I can show this to you. Okay, here it is. I feel like we did this. I showed you this, guys. I showed you this before. Were we just talking about the cartilage before? I think we were just talking about the
I think it
cartilage.
was the cartilage.
Yeah, so see that little bone right there? That's the hyoid. It sits right behind and under your jaw right there, okay? And it's just the only thing holding it in place. You can see there are all these muscles and ligaments here, and that's it. That's all that's holding it in place. Got it?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about the orbit in the eye hole. So there are 3 holes in the orbit that you need to know. 2 of them are long, skinny holes that we call fissures, and 1 is a canal, okay, and it's nice and round. So the superior orbital fissure, it's superior because it's above the inferior, and it's orbital because it's in the orbit, and it's a fissure because it's long and skinny. That one is entirely within the sphenoid bone. This purple here is sphenoid, okay? And the inferior orbital fissure is actually between the sphenoid and either the zygomatic, or on some skulls, it's actually between the sphenoid and the maxilla, okay? So those are the 2 fissures. And then here, at the back of the orbit on the medial side and superior is the optic canal, okay? So let me try to show this to you on our skull. Okay, there we go. All right. So this is the superior fissure there. Ooh, there we go. There. This is harder than it looks. This is the inferior fissure here. And you can see this one has a really long fissure that goes from between the sphenoid and both the zygomatic and the maxilla there. And then the optic canal is that little round hole back there. Ta-da! There you go. And the optic nerve takes visual signals from your eye through the optic canal. And that's going to go back to the brain. And that is going to, I can't get, oh, there we go. Okay. The optic canal emerges inside the skull under the lesser wing of the sphenoid, okay? And that's going to carry visual signals to the brain. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, any questions? No? Okay. All right, so we did all of that. Look, we got the nasal bones, we got the maxilla, the sphenoid, the lacrimal, the ethmoid. There's this little part of it right there, okay? Zygomatic, temporal, vomer. This is the rest of the ethmoid bone, yeah? Perpendicular of the ethmoid bone. Mandible, there we go. Frontal, parietal, boom, we did it. All right, we learned all of that. Oh my gosh, and we learned all of that. Oh my God.
It's a lot.
Hang on, can I do this? I want this to speak. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, I should not be left in a lecture room all by myself. All right, so that's the end of the skull. Let's see. Okay, so that's been like about an hour or so. So I want to take a break. I want to drink some water. I'm going to stop recording this if I can do that. This is not, okay. Stop recording. I don't know how to make it stop.